Assalamu alaikum. How are you, Azan?
Walaikum salam. I'm good. Yes.
So your name is Azan or Mudassir?
So basically, my actual name is Muddasir Mohammed, but in India and my family they call me Azan because that's like my childhood name. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for sparing the time and doing this podcast. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for watching us. The purpose of doing this podcast is to introduce Azan Mudassir, who has been recently um, awarded a seat in doctor in medicine and surgery from a community, and I feel proud and privileged to take this opportunity to learn from your experience. And especially the purpose of doing this is for our age group who is not very familiar but are having the aspirations for our children to get into this professional domain. And thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. Before I go any further, I would like to spend a couple of minutes highlighting the sufferings and the pain that is being inflicted on the Palestinian people. And it's not about religion, but on even the worst humanitarian grounds, the amount of atrocities that are happening in Israel, in Palestine by the Israeli forces are highly condemnable. Now, as humans, we all need to do everything in our capacity to shout out loud about these atrocities and do everything in our capacity that we can do. Donate, uh, create awareness on social media, speak to friends and family, highlight the sufferings in all possible ways. I would like to bring to the notice of the viewers that there's an organization called Brothers in Faith who have done a remarkable job in terms of raising funds for the Palestinian people in Gaza. They have done a barbecue recently and they raised more than $45,000, and they have donated it to the people in Gaza. And please, if you all want to donate and do your bit, reach out to them. I will put their details in the description in YouTube video later. If you want to donate, you can reach out to them. And thank you so much, Azan. Thank you for joining. And as I said, the whole purpose of doing this podcast is to learn from your experiences and get a better understanding of how we can pursue this career in medicine. So tell us something. How did you start? Where did you start? What made you do this? And unravel the mystery for us.
Um. So basically, I guess it kind of started in year 10
Mm-hmm.
when we were picking out our VCE subjects,
Mm-hmm.
and prior to that, it's always been like, you know, once year 10, 11, 12 starts, you need to be focused on where your career pathway wants to go because the subjects you select are then going to determine what uni and what courses you're eligible for, and then based on those courses then is obviously going to determine your career. So sometime between like year 8 and year 9, um I started getting more and more liking to science and especially biology. And so I was like, okay, well, now it's time to pick the subjects. What should I do? So in year 10, actually, I picked year 11 biology. So I did year 11 biology in year 10. And then when I was in year 11, I finished biology. So I did year 12 biology, did the VC exams. So I got that out of the way. So I started with my I started with my with a good step forward into that direction. So once I did that, then I, had an extra slot for my VC, which helped me perform pretty good in VC, despite going to a public school that usually performs not as well as other schools around that have better resources and stuff. So I had to work with what I had, but alhamdulillah, I got through VCE and got into Monash, doing Bachelor of Biomedicine. And
That is
that,
engineering stream, but when you say Bachelor of Biomedicine, it's a medical stream or an engineering stream?
yep. So biomedicine is the closest you can get to pre-med. So thing
Okay.
with biomedicine is, okay, so I should have actually mentioned this prior. So there are some pathways to get directly into med from year 12,
Okay.
but the thing is only 4 unis like offer that in all of
Mm-hmm.
Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Monash not being one of them. I think Melbourne Uni offers it. Then like what a few one in like Queensland or something like that.
Okay.
So there's only like few unis that offer a direct entry into medicine after year 12. So it's very competitive. And to
Mm.
get into that, you not only need a 99.9 plus ATAR, which
Mm.
I didn't have, unfortunately, and you need a UCAT score, like a very high UCAT score, which is a separate test. You just book in a test, go into a test center, and it's a 3 hour test that you have
So
to
if you
do.
go back a little bit, because bear with my ignorance, I'm trying to understand because this is more for my generation people
Yeah.
than your
Yeah.
generation people, because we come from an educational system in India, and the
Mm,
educational system or the competitive exams getting into this professional courses in India is quite different as compared to
mm,
Australia. And most of us aspire our children to get into medicine and engineering, but lack the understanding of the local systems. What is ATAR? How do you get it? What are the factors that
okay.
go into calculating that ATAR? Is it purely academic, or is it a combination of academic, co-curricular activities and other things? So let's
Mhm.
go a little bit backwards. Where did
Back.
you
Yeah.
start your schooling from, and when do you think is the right time to get this into the children that come on? Because if you want to give a goal to the children, your children,
Mm.
you want to get them started and motivated and start thinking about it, what do you think is the right age or right class for them to start grooming into that mindset?
Yeah. Um, I reckon, from the get-go,
Okay.
from primary school, you should always, and myself as well, I've always been like determined, like always been that competitive. I have a lot of siblings and cousins, and my parents would always do the typical Indian parent thing where they'll be like, "Oh, you got to get higher marks than
Okay,
XYZ,"
so always
So
push
that kind
people
of
forward.
like, yeah, that kind of put like that competitive nature in me. And primary school, no one cares. No one
Yeah.
cares. Like all the other kids didn't care. So,
Yeah.
but I was the only one who actually cared about what I got in my test. So I was actually like performing pretty good.
So all your
Um,
schooling was done in Australia in different states. Where did you do the schooling from?
okay, yeah, it's actually an interesting one. So, obviously right now I live in Melbourne and I have for many years, but originally when I came to Australia, I came like when I was like 3, 4 months old.
Hmm.
And I lived here. I lived in Melbourne, and I did my, kindergarten in Melbourne. But then we moved to different rural towns around Australia. So, we went from there. We went to Griffith, and Griffith
I
didn't really
remember
have a
to
public school.
Griffith when you were in Griffith. I remember that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So Griffith didn't have a great public school system or anything. So I went to private Catholic school in Griffith, which was all right.
Does that help?
Does it help like going to a private school?
Yes.
Um, Look, honestly, so like realistically, what like my year one grades didn't affect much,
Okay.
Like year
Okay.
one
Yeah,
to year
that
four
was
doesn't
too
affect
small. Right.
much.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Um, and my high school, like I said previously, was a public school. So
Okay.
I would say private school will kind of help because private schools are tend to be, more competitive and
Is it
they
because of
have
the
better
peer pressure
resources.
that comes from the other peers who are very competitive in nature?
A little bit of that, and
Yeah.
also that the fact that they have more resources, they have more teachers, they have more support
Okay.
systems. you know
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, my teachers even at my public school were very good. They're always ready to support
Which
me.
school was
But at
that?
the Tani senior,
Okay.
so I live in Tani, so it's just down the road.
Yeah.
um So yeah, private school again, look, it can help, but it's not necessary for someone to succeed. So if someone, some of the uncle and aunties are watching this, you don't have to think that, oh, I have to shell out thousands of dollars for my
Yeah.
son or daughter to go public school.
Mm.
Sorry, to go private school. So it will kind of help, but again, at the end of the day, ATAR is a ranking, and ATAR is just like really the first step into getting into whatever course you want to be, whether that be med, engineering, literature, whatever.
Okay.
So yeah, going back to the primary school. So I did a couple of years in Griffith, then I moved to another town, Wodonga, did like 1 year there, and then I moved to like near the outback in South Australia, did a
Yeah.
couple of years there. And then interestingly, year 5 and 6, I was sent to India. So year 5 and 6, I did in India because my parents wanted me to experience the Indian culture and,
Mhm.
be in line with our roots and stuff. Because realistically, like Melbourne, pretty diverse community. But those towns, there's no one there. There's like max like what, maybe
Yeah.
80,
Yeah.
50 people, Muslim people, Desi people, you know?
Mm.
So they wanted me to be more connected to the culture, learn the language, not just learn the language, learn the nuances that, functions within our society. So they sent me to India for year 5 and 6, just me, my brother, and my mum, my brothers and my mum. So we went to India, and we lived there for 2 years. And I, I'm not gonna lie, when they did it, I hated it. I was like, no, why are you doing this to me? Because growing up, whenever we did something wrong, they'll be like, we're gonna send you back to India. And now they've actually
Right.
sent me to India. So in my head, I'm like, I haven't done anything wrong. Why am I being punished? I thought of it as a punishment.
So which school
Um,
you studied in India? What was the school?
in India, so from Hyderabad. So well, I mean, I'm pretty sure this whole community is from Hyderabad. So Nasser Boys School in
Oh, that's a good
Gachibowli.
school. That's a good school of
Yeah, yeah, it was.
Indian
Yeah, it
studies.
was pretty good. Yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
good.
So, but obviously the whole mindset of me being sent to India, just living in India, just like because whole life I grew up here, my siblings grew up here,
Yeah.
all my friends, family were here. So I was like, no, why are you doing this to me? But and at the end of the 2 years, finally come back to Australia. I was happy, ecstatic. And now that I've grown up, now that was year 5 and 6. So that was like 10 years ago, 11 years ago. Now thinking back on it, I'm really glad they did do that
Mm.
because it really helped me like develop my culture, develop my language, like अच्छी सी उर्दू बोलनी आती है and
Yep.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah. So basically, after that, I came back to Melbourne, and then I've lived in Melbourne since,
So when
and I've
you
been to different
studied,
schools.
did you study public school in Tan, etc. all through? Did you happen to go to Al Taqa or
No,
no?
so started originally at a semi public school,
Hmm.
um, Kunang Secondary College, which was in the eastern suburbs,
Okay, yeah.
near Baldwin and stuff like that.
Yep.
So we came there, did 1 year there, and then we moved to the west side because my parents were, interested in purchasing a house and stuff, and obviously
Yep. Yep.
better opportunities here.
If we
So
compare the West and East between Travis
mm,
and Baldwin, because of the cultural differences of the communities that they live, what sort of a
mm.
peer pressure is it different here as compared to in the East? Like it's more, where do you learn the most is from your peers, right?
Yep, yep.
The inspiration, the understanding of the subjects and all that. So how do you compare that between East and West?
So you mean academically?
Academically, or more from your friends and peers that's who study along with you?
Study along with you. Yeah. So again, I only did 1 year, but year 7, and I enjoyed it. It was very good, very nice, and it was a very high ranking school as well. Like those rankings that come out
And
every
that's
year.
the reason I'm asking, because what happens is
Mm,
you study with it's the group that you move around with, and that sort of gives you the initial inspiration or the motivation and understanding as well, and uh, seek knowledge from where you need to find it, right?
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Mm.
So even though that was a public school, had a lot of good resources, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of high achievers around me, so that kind
Yeah,
of helped me
that's the point.
achieve.
Having high achievers around you
Yeah,
keeps you pushing the boundaries.
exactly, exactly. And the thing is, to compare the East to the West, East 80%, 70 to 80% were high achievers.
Yeah,
Compared to the West, 20 to 30% are high achievers.
it's
So
the other
it's like a complete opposite. So in the East, you can be chill with everyone, and your friend circle naturally forms, and they'll have automatically happen to be high achievers.
yeah,
Whereas in the West, your friend circle naturally forms. Some of them don't care about any studies. Some of
yeah,
them only care about sports. Some of them,
yeah,
really care about studies, and that's fine. Everyone has like a different thing, but again, if you're want to make those study groups, really sit down and let's do these practice exams for stuff,
yeah.
you need to find that group within your friend circle to do
Yeah.
that with.
Most of the friends that I have, their children are in that age group or in the classes of 8, 9, 10. And the conversations that we have among ourselves is what is next. And for me, one of the purpose speaking to you is to try and understand and also spread the awareness among my peer group that, look, this guy has done it, and probably we can learn from him by watching and trying and understanding what steps he has taken. So to break it down, what do you think is a systematic way of getting there? How do we, if we say, if we break it down in terms of how much time do we need to spend, what do we need to focus on, and how do we do that? Would you be able to break it down?
Okay. So if we're targeting for the people who are in year 9 to 10 and stuff
Yeah,
like
eight,
that,
nine, 10, yeah.
yeah. So going into VCE, have a clear mind, because once you're in VCE, if you're doing an accelerated subject,
Mm,
that year 10 is going to count, for that one subject.
mhm.
Um, but and then year 11 and 12 is going to count as well. So everything you do in every single test you do in year 12, major assessment tasks, they're all going to count towards your main score, overall score. So
Okay.
if I compare that with India, you know how India have the board exams, the year 10 exams, it's
Mm,
similar to that sense. So where do a couple of things and then you'll have an exam. Where in Australia or in VCE, it's not just the exams, it's everything you do from the start of the year. So that
yeah.
assessment one, assessment two, they're gonna
All
combine
that
all of
counts, is
those,
it?
all that counts,
Yeah.
then they're gonna make things. But that being said, just because you don't perform well on assessment one doesn't mean give up,
Yeah.
it just
Oh,
means,
yes.
identify those points and
Yeah.
move on, because exam matters most. Even though the other stuff matters, exam has the highest weighting.
Yeah.
So
So the
exam
marks
is
are
going
the
to boost
critical
those marks
point,
up,
and then the other things add up to it.
add up to the points. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we studied in India until class 10, everyone had
Mm.
the same subject. We had a board exam. Then we sort of after class 10, we've got a PUC, that was called pre-university college. So that's when we used to dissect. We would go either the engineering or arts or commerce or the medicine background. Now,
Yeah.
in Australia, is it the same, or is it like a common subject again in 11 and 12? And after 12, that you make a decision which way
Mm.
you're going? How does it work in Australia?
Okay. Yeah. So very similar. Up to year 10,
It's all common,
you
is
just
it?
have one class, you sit in one classroom, do whatever. And then year 11 and 12, you choose your subject. It will be the same school,
Mhm.
but year 11 and 12 is called VCE, which is,
Okay.
at least in Victoria, it's called Victorian Curriculum of Education. So it's a
Yeah.
curriculum from Victoria. It's not your school making the curriculum anymore. All the
Yeah.
exams and tests are from the central, the state government.
Yeah.
And so then, based on that, you select your subjects. So, say you do want to get into engineering, you would select physics, methods, maths. There's like three different types of maths. There's like a
Okay.
really general one, which is called
Yeah.
general math. Then there's methods, which is a bit more complicated. And then there's specialists, which is very complicated. So if
Okay.
you want to do engineering, ideally you should be doing physics, methods, and specialists. Some schools, unfortunately, it is with a lot of public schools, don't even offer specialists because they don't have the resources to get teachers for it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, yeah. So you just do methods, but um, you don't need to do specialist to get into university. You can if you want to. It will look good on your application if you do, but you
Yeah.
don't need to. So
Mm.
there are a couple of subjects like that are called prerequisites. So if you want to get into medicine, you have to do chemistry and methods. If you want to get into biomed,
Okay.
which will help you get into medicine, So you will have to do chemistry and methods. Those are the subjects you have to do. If you don't do those, you can't even apply for it.
Okay.
Right? For most unis.
So,
Um,
sorry, can you explain me the difference between medicine and biomed? What is there a difference, or they're the same?
yeah. So, like I said, kind of going back to the same to the old topic that I forgot to finish is uh only a couple of schools allow going straight from year 12 to medicine, as
Mhm.
in you're doing medicine, you've started medicine. This is MBBS or MD or
Okay.
whatever. Yep. Biomed it's an undergrad degree. It's undergrad. It's not the
Mhm.
postgrad. It's not doctor. It's not master's. It's
Mhm.
undergrad. And biomed, it's a very broad degree. With biomed, you can get into, you know, speech pathology, you can get into zoology, you can get into scientists, immunology,
Okay. Related
anatomy, stuff like that.
domains of medicine.
Yeah, related to domains of biology and medicine, the new technologies. You can do biomed and then go on to become a research scientist that develops new drugs, develops new medicines. You can do that. So biomed is the broad one, and if you do that, one of the options you can do is med, but there's other options as well. It's not the only option.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of what I went with. And a lot of people who do biomed are aiming to go into med after they finish their undergrad degree. Right. So to get into biomed in the first place, you need to select your subjects correctly and wisely in year 11 and 12. Right. And again, doing biomed is not the only way to get into med. You can do science and still get into med. You do science, you finish your course, then you apply for medicine, you have good scores, good GAM set, inshallah, you can get into med.
Okay.
Or you can do pharmacy, finish pharmacy, you've become a pharmacist, you can maybe do pharmacy for 2-3 years. Then you decide, okay, now I have a bit of money, now I'm a bit free up, at least got, one career. Now I want to try for med, you can apply for med. Yeah. So doing the undergrad, that's your undergrad degree, right? And then med in most universities is offered at postgrad. Okay. So, yeah. So you select your subjects accordingly. If you want to get into engineering, like I said, you need to do those physics, maths, and subjects like that. And you have a selection of 5 subjects. Once you've done your main subjects, you can select subjects that will look good on your application. And then you can also select subjects that you enjoy, because you ideally want to enjoy what you're doing, right? That way you perform better. And I mean, the best thing is just to enjoy the career pathway you're going down. So if you don't like biology, don't try and do medicine. You're not gonna be able to enjoy it, which means you're not going to be able to perform well. So try and find what it is that you're good at. If you're really good at math, you're always like fascinated by architecture and stuff like that. Maybe look into engineering, maybe look into architect, stuff like that.
No, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Now, what was the question?
Now, I was thinking, like, how many colleges do actually offer medicine? Like, in Australia, do you have a count of the total number of seats and how many people actually apply? So just to compare the amount of competition, like say if there are 100 seats in India, when in my era of education, there were hardly 20,000 engineering seats and around 200,000 people applying. Is it the level of competition the same in Australia or?
Yeah, it's basically the same. Obviously, lesser populations, but the ratio is around similar. So I know for undergrad med, which is again straight from year 12, for that one, that only a few universities offer, there is like 18,000 people that apply for it, and there's 200 spots.
Wow, that's very competitive.
Yeah, it's very competitive, exactly. So then
almost 100 times, almost 100 times.
Yeah, exactly. So realistically, a lot of people won't get in through that pathway, and if you don't, like, there's other options. If you're really determined on
what are those other options?
Yeah, the other option, like I said, is doing an undergrad degree first.
Okay, and that sort of leads to medicine,
and then you can do postgrad med. Yeah.
Okay,
but postgrad, like masters of med, basically.
So if you do an undergrad degree, will that allow you to practice in the field of medicine?
It won't allow you to practice. Like, you're not a doctor, you can't be going clinical. You're not going to get into clinical practice, but you're gonna get practice in the sense that you're going to learn about anatomy, you're going to learn about physiology. If you're doing biomed, at least you're going to learn about immunology. You're going to be doing a lot of lab work, working in the labs, doing a lot of research experiments. So you're going to get that type of experience, which will help you once you're in med. And that's why the med schools, they look out for applicants that have done biomed, that have done science, because they know these people are already used to this environment and already have this knowledge,
basic understanding,
basic understanding. Exactly. So that way you perform better.
So if you were to advise your juniors in the community, what would you advise? Where would they find the easiest and the most transparent information on this? Like, do you have any blogs, any websites, or information that they can go and actually find
Mm.
out these places where they can find accurate information, easy to find?
Yeah. Yeah. So easy to find is there's a website called Phrases. Okay.
Okay.
It's actually a tutoring company for the GAMSAT, which is the exam that you need to do to get from undergrad, so as in biomed to med. If you want to get from biomed into med, you need to do the GAMSAT.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So that's actually it's a 6 hour
I'll put that
exam.
in the description for the viewers to visit, and they can learn from that.
Yeah. So Fraser's GAMSAT, they have like obviously a paid service. They're trying to sell you the
Yeah.
tutoring service. But at the same time, they also have a lot of free information. They have a blog with, last year, how many people got selected, what were their scores, what you should be aiming for, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they have the list of all the unis and what are the requirements. It's like all in like one page. So it's good.
That's good. Now I'll ask you some Indian style questions. Okay, don't
Mhm.
and that's for because the cultural background that we come from.
Yeah.
How many hours would you put in terms of learning, and how deep do you go and to prepare for your GMAT? You said the exam.
GAMSAT.
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 Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So GAMSAT it's a different beast, right? So the thing with GAMSAT is you're doing your biomed degree, you're doing your undergrad, and you
yeah.
have to do your GAMSAT alongside with it.
Or you got to
So
spend time on your existing
you
studies.
have to
You have to also. That's
exactly
typical.
because it's an external exam, it has nothing to do with your university. You
Yeah.
know?
Okay.
Um, so basically the first tip I'll give you for GAMSAT is, well, most people what they do is that they only try it once or twice. What they'll do is they'll try it in third year because they know the degree is about to end.
Yeah.
They'll try it in third year to apply for. So like if they're applying for 2024, right? Um, they'll try in 2023 to apply for 2024.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
but that only gives you one
One shot.
chance. One
Okay.
chance. I mean, obviously you have more chance. You can try again in 2024, then apply in 2025.
Yeah.
But
If
the
you lose a
problem
year,
with that,
then I guess.
problem with that is you've wasted 2024,
Yeah.
because you
1 year,
finish your
you lose
degree
a
now.
year.
Your degree is finished. You're not
Yeah.
doing anything
Yeah.
unless you have some side plans, unless you have a backup plan.
Yeah.
If you have backup plans, something like entrepreneurship you want to pursue in the meantime, great opportunity. Once you finish your degree, maybe do, maybe focus a bit on that, and then you can focus a lot on the GAMSAT as well. A lot of people have done that, and it works out really well for them, and they get very good scores. They
Okay.
take a gap year and study only on the GAMSAT. Okay,
Yeah.
so that can work out for some people. What I did though is I did it in second year. I started it second year, so I did it 2 times in second year. Did I? Yeah, I did 2 times in second year, and then I did it 1 time in third year.
Yeah.
Okay, so that way I had practice and
Mm.
to get my scores improving. Because
Yeah.
you can do the practice exams at home, you can do the practice questions, but at the end of the day, once you get into the exact test environments, once you go to the city, sit in that test center, the examiner's walking all around you, doing
Yeah.
it in the 6 hours, it's a different
Okay.
experience.
Yeah.
So that experience really helps. So again, first time I did it, wasn't great scores. And then I saw that, okay, and there's 3 sections in it: section 1, section 2, section 3.
Mm.
Section 1 is more like verbal reasoning, logical reasoning. Okay, so they'll give you like a paragraph or like a short story to read. And then based on that, they'll ask you a question. They'll be like, oh, how was John feeling during this time?
Oh,
So
yeah.
for that, the reason they're asking you the question like that, and because it seems so simple, what we might think, oh, it's a medicine exam. They're going to ask you some complex,
Mm.
what's cardiovascular
Yeah.
systems. It's
Yeah.
going to ask you about the respiratory system. It's not like that.
Mhm.
What they want to see is your ability to
Mm.
break down the questions. Is your ability to understand information.
Yeah.
So the section 1 will be questions like, they'll read a story, how does he's feeling, or there'll be a picture. What is the message the author is trying to get across, stuff like that. And it's all multiple choice, by the way.
Yeah.
That's section 2. You're writing your own exam. So you're writing your own essay, 2 essays in 1 hour. So 30 minutes per essay. They'll give you a topic. There'll be some topics like happiness is blah, 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 will be like the
Yeah.
sentence at the top. And
Yeah.
based on that, you write your essay.
Okay.
Section 3 is the more science and math-based question section. This is
More
what you
logical.
would
More logical.
traditionally think. So it will be stuff like, you know, something, a water, a pipe is filling up a water jug at XY liters per minute.
Yeah. How
What
much
happens?
time will take and
So that's like the math questions, or there'll be some biological questions. They'll be like, oh, we did this experiment, this bacteria was found, blah, blah. But the thing about these questions are, you don't have to know about these bacteria. You don't have to know about what exactly the bacteria does. All the information is there. It's about reading it and understanding and making those connections to find out the answer.
Yep.
That's what the GAMSAT's assessing.
That's very informative. I hope it helps the audience who listen to this. And that could. I just have 2, 3 more questions. We are running out of time. So, first thing is how supportive, or I'm sure that your parents have been very supportive in your journey. And what have they done specially for you that has made you better in terms of getting motivated? And I want other parents to learn from that as well. Like, what can they do to help their children to achieve what they want to achieve?
Yeah. First things first, like,
Don't push
keep
them too hard.
yeah, exactly. Like keep it like stress free. Like they're already like, whether you might believe it or not,
Yeah.
kids are stressed as well. Okay. Kids
Okay.
obviously know
So
about
that's
their
an
future.
important point. Don't stress them a lot. Give them a bit of relaxation. And that
Yeah.
brings me to the point that I see you do singing. That's how you.
Yes.
Is that your hobby?
Yes, it is my hobby. And I have started to take it a bit more seriously now.
Yeah. You have a
By
good voice.
posting.
Do you want to sing a small song
No,
for
I'm
us?
not singing, I'm not singing. Check it out. I posted something yesterday. It's on Instagram at azan.sings.
Yeah,
If anyone,
it's good.
check that out.
We just have another 7 minutes, so you can go for a quick 1, 2 minutes.
No,
If
no,
I-
I'm not singing right now. I'm not singing right now.
Yeah.
But I'll just say like, yeah, like things like that, extracurricular activities, like whatever it may be, singing, sports, debating club,
Mm.
whatever you're doing, it really helps.
Yeah.
Especially when you're applying for med as well. So when you're applying for med, you can get the
Find
best marks.
something to burst your
Yeah.
stress.
Yeah. No, not stress. I'm saying the application will look good. So you can have the best marks, right? You can have the best marks. You can have really good GAMSAT scores. Okay. Every section you've done very good in,
Yeah.
and you can apply for it. They'll give you an interview. They'll be like, all right, done. Get an interview. But here's the critical point. This after they've given the offer based on your marks,
Yeah.
they give you an interview based on your marks. Then based on your interview, they'll actually select you, how you perform in the interview.
Oh, yes.
And you can practice for the interview. The interview will be questions like, oh, it'll be like ethical questions. You want to see how your mind works. Like what type of person are you? Do you have the qualities of a doctor? Do you have the qualities that they're looking for? So they'll ask like random stuff like, you're an ED doctor. This patient comes in with this problem, but he doesn't want to disrobe because he's afraid that, because he's vaping and he's afraid that you're going to tell his parents. What do you do in this situation? Questions like that. And the thing is, you can prepare for those questions. You can practice, you can do a lot of different types of questions and you can prepare for them. But at the end of the day, if you don't have that skills, if you don't have that extracurricular activities, like for me, it was singing, right? I know how to project my voice. I know how to talk to people in that sense. But if I answer the questions like, oh, so first of all, like I would ask the patient to understand the situation. I will tell them, I won't tell the parents. If you're talking like that, you're not getting it,
Yeah.
You can have the perfect answer. You can say all the right points, but if you're like this, like you're not.
It's more about the human skill and holistic person. That's what they're looking for. And
They're trying to look
developing
for the
that holistic person is essential. That's what you mean, right?
Exactly. It's a mix of what you say and how you say it.
Yeah.
So that is what's going to help you in your interviews.
Yeah. Look, I've just got one more question, which is probably very critical for me as well, because one of the pursuits that I have is to build the leaders in our community. And when I say leaders, it's leaders across the board, leaders in profession, leaders in religion, leaders in business, leaders in political sphere, and all that. So I just want to ask you, what is your definition of community, and how would you contribute back to the community
So what's
when
my
you
definition
achieve
of a
what you
leader?
achieve?
What's my definition of a leader in a community?
No, what's your definition of your community?
A
And
community.
how would you
Uh,
make a difference in the community? You just got
okay.
2 minutes.
Yeah, no, all good. I've got this. Guess what? This definition of community, that was one of my questions in the interview. So
Okay.
they asked, what is your definition of community? So I would say a community is, like-minded individuals around you that
Great.
obviously want the best for you because if you do better, the community does better
Yeah.
because of that. So it's people who ideally they want the best for you, and the community can be, start off small like your family, your close friends, but then
Yeah.
also there's a bigger, wider community as well. Like for us, it'd be like Desi people, it'd be like Hyderabadi people. You
Yes.
can keep making that wider.
Hmm.
And so essentially, community is just those group of people that are there to support you,
Yeah.
you know. And the way to make a difference in the community is, give back to the community.
Mm.
When you're young, you started off, you might think, okay, I'm only a kid, like I can't really do much, but you can do a lot to give back to the community, whether it be, volunteering, starting off small,
Mm.
helping with, anything like charity fund projects, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then once you grow up and you get into your career, you can help the community through that sense, like
Yeah.
in a
Contributing back.
wider sense. Yeah, contribute back. Exactly. So I think that's important because your community has supported you when you didn't have anything, when you didn't
Yes.
have that support. And now that you're older and now that you have the ability to give back to the community, it's important that you do so.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Look, thank you so much for your time. I highly appreciate you giving time for the community on a weekend. I hope the people or the listeners who listen to it get some benefit out of it and get an idea of how to pursue a career, especially for the people of my age group, to try and understand more about the local education system and see how we can support our children to achieve what we want them to achieve. I wish you a very best of luck for your future. I congratulate your parents, yourself, and your grandparents for your achievement. I feel proud that you're from my community, and please reach out to us if we can be of any help. We are always here to support you, and very best of luck for your future endeavors. I hope you will flourish and you will look after your parents. And once again, I can't thank you enough for your time. At the same time, again, I want to remind the viewers about the sufferings that are being on the Palestinian people are undergoing. We all need to raise our voice in every possible way and support them. So reach out if you want to donate. There are a lot of organizations who are collecting donations and sending it across. There are a lot of individuals who are fighting hard, doing protests, creating awareness on social media and all that. So everything counts. Do not hesitate. Write emails to your local representatives. Do whatever you can do in your capacity to make a difference. Thank you once again, Ayan. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I sure did enjoy this conversation and learned a lot from you, and highly appreciate you giving us this time.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank
Bye bye.
you. Have a good one.
Allah Hafiz.